before I begin, I'd like to ask everyone to close their eyes. Imagine the street where you live. Picture the houses, the colours, the rooftops. Now, imagine waking up one day and finding that one of these houses has been replaced by a giant bright red cube. How would you react? Would it be exciting? Would it be ugly? Or would it simply just feel wrong? That reaction reveals something interesting about architecture. You can now open your eyes if you haven't already. Today, I want to explore a question that architects, planners, and communities have debated about for decades. Does architecture have to be visually compatible with its surroundings? We often underestimate how much buildings influence the way we experience cities. When architecture follows a common language, it creates an identity. For example, if I show you some screenshots from Google Street View, many of you would instantly recognize that this is Paris. Paris is recognizable not because every building is identical, but because they share similar structures, materials, and styles. The Haussmannian style is the most predominant within the inner circle. Together, they create a strong sense of place. Now, if every building in Paris looked completely different, would Paris still feel like Paris? Let's take a look at this using some famous landmarks. Let's imagine the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Burj Khalifa, the Dancing House, and a medieval castle. Let's also add one of the suburban houses from earlier. Now, is this exciting or is it visual chaos? Compatibility creates coherence. It helps people understand a place and connect it with a particular culture, history, or identity. But there is a problem. If every building in Paris, if every building looked completely the same, many of the world's most famous landmarks would have never existed. When the Centre Pompidou first opened, many people hated it. Pipes, ducts, and structural elements were visible on the outside. It looked completely different from its surroundings. The thing is, the Eiffel Tower was also heavily criticised before becoming one of the most recognised structures on Earth. Buildings that stand out often become landmarks. They attract attention, they create discussion, they push architecture forward. Innovation rarely begins by blending in. Instead of asking, should buildings fit in or stand out, let's ask, how much should they do either? Here are two different extremes. A city where every building is identical. Same roof, same door, same window, same porch, everything. The other, a city where every building demands attention. To your left, you have a neon green structure that resembles a guitar. To your right, you have a giant sandcastle. And right behind me, you have a giant skyscraper that reaches up past the clouds. Practically speaking, none of them sound particularly appealing. Architecture works best when there is a conversation between the old and new, rather than a battle between them. Now, think back to that giant bright red cube on your street. Maybe your initial reaction was that it didn't belong. However, many of the buildings that we celebrate today once seemed out of place too. So, does architecture have to be visually compatible with its surroundings? Well, sometimes. Compatibility creates identity and order, whereas it is difference that creates innovation and progress. The goal is not for every building to look exactly the same, nor for every building to demand attention. The goal is balance, because the most successful cities are not the ones that preserve the past at all costs, or reject it entirely. favour cities that allow architecture to respect its surroundings while still having the courage to evolve. I hope that the next time you see a building that catches your eye by standing out from its surroundings, you'll think back to this talk and consider the intention of its design. Thank you.